Great,
All
thanks.
right, everyone. I'm excited to introduce my next guest. Starred in one of the most iconic TV shows from the 60s. He has rescued over 15,000 dogs, way more than that at this point, with his wife, Tracy, with their gentle giant rescue. You know him as Robin, the Boy Wonder from TV's Batman, Burt Ward.
Hello, citizen.
Hello. How are you?
I'm great, thank you.
All right. Should we talk a little Batman?
Absolutely.
So, before we dive back in time, have you? I haven't seen it yet, but the Flash apparently has Adam West CGI in it.
Well, they here's what I know. My agent came to me, and Warner Brothers requested a clip from our series. So, and I haven't seen the movie yet either. But what they did is I had to. They came to me, and we agreed to allow them to use a clip from the TV series. So I don't know. There may be something else in addition to that. But I know that we authorized the clip to be used, and I haven't seen it. And I guess you haven't seen it yet either.
Not yet, not yet. Yeah, I guess there's a lot of cameos that they popped in there. I guess I don't want to give it away, but the ones I guess they were going to do Linda Carter, Wonder Woman, but they cut that one. They cut a few other ones, but yeah, I was just curious. I was just curious.
Yeah.
And so
Sounds like a great movie too. I mean, I've been seeing the advertising for it. It looks like it's really they've taken it to the nth degree.
yeah, yes, it looks pretty good. Hopefully I'll be able to get to the theater. Go. It's such a thing to go to the theater now. It's so much so much time.
Well, I think now, can't you also just buy a ticket and, so to speak, and have it air on your television? I mean, they have a thing now where you can actually get, at first release, you're basically paying for a movie ticket out of your home. It's a little bit discounted. It's not quite as high, but or either that, or it's a price that includes your family or something like that. But I've heard about that there's some kind of a thing where a limited amount of screenings in your own home, on your own TV set. So if you didn't want to go to a theater, you could still get it when it first comes out.
That would be amazing. I haven't heard of that just yet, at least not here. Because there's always the one guy in front of you that is on his phone, and it's, what I mean? Like in a dark theater, it's so annoying.
Oh, how about the lady with the beautiful flowered hat? This is, and you're looking between the leaves trying to see the screen.
Yeah, it's always something. It was always the greatest invention for movie theaters for me and my wife was when they finally made them theater style. Because when they used to be flat, my wife is very short. So it was always 50-50 whether someone too tall sat in front of us.
Oh, right. Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. Yeah, well, now they a lot of theaters have that tiered seating.
Yeah, now you can lay down. It's like,
right. I mean, in some of them they have dinners. I mean, there's a whole thing where they serve a dinner. I mean, they really made an event out of it, and I think that's great, because there are a lot of people, and listen, you can't get over the fact of a gigantic screen experience. I mean, I always loved the movies, going to the movies, and and unfortunately, because of the COVID-19 issue, that really socked them pretty hard. But now people are starting to kind of creep out, of their bat caves, and starting to go out and have fun again, which is really what we all should be able to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, all right. So I was digging around for some stories. So I found one thing that said you were giving a speech at Harvard University. You brought the Robin costume and it got stolen.
Right. That's true. That's true. And the person that stole it is a very popular comedian that's had his late night show on. You know who I'm talking about? There you go. He was going to Harvard as a student, And I'll never forget it. I was doing a thing, and he came up on the stage with another guy. They said, we're here from, security, and just we just want to make sure there's no issue. So we're going to take your costume backstage, until you're finished, and then we'll of course give it back to you. And then of course he used that to steal it. And now that was a really valuable costume, by the way. That was not, that you're talking about something that one of a kind. I can only imagine the monetary value, but it took a day and a half to get it back, but we finally got it back. And I was on his show some years ago, and he remembered very well. In fact, he brought it up. It was funny. So it's so funny how, your paths can cross at different times in different places.
Yeah, it's a really funny story. So what was that your costume, or you just
Oh,
were?
yes. Yeah. Well, let me tell you what happened on Batman. These fight scenes, and they had 6 costumes for me, but every one of these fight scenes, something got torn or pulled or frayed or whatever, and so, and because of personal appearances that I would make on the weekends, I made my own costume. It was an exact duplicate, if anything, nicer. Okay. And it got to be where if there was a problem with where I had to do a scene where there was a close up, and all of the collars were frayed on the because of the fights, I would use my own costume, because I didn't do anything with, I wanted to keep it pristine. Which, and it worked great. It worked great. So I did have my own costume. So that was the costume that I was taking, was shown. But I mean, we would go through, they had like every week, like 6 Robin costumes. Those fight scenes, you could go through 2 or 3 costumes in one fight scene. Oh, stop it. This tore. Well, we don't have time to fix it. Put on a new cape, put on a new vest. Oh, you get shredded tights. Go get this, just so many things. Your mask get torn off, and they can't, because it actually tore from the fight scene where it was pulled off from the face portion. So things happen when you're doing very active stuff, and Batman was a very physical show.
Oh yeah, pows out. I know.
Oh yeah, but these fight scenes got really rough because these stunt guys, they like that stuff, and normally when you have a fight scene, it doesn't go on as long. Ours were like, the stunt guys that were hired to do stunt work for us really spent 90% of their time choreographing these 2 and 3 minute fight scenes, which that's a long time to and all kinds of things, like somebody picks up a table and crashes it over Batman's head, and of course he falls down but then gets right up. The one thing that was great is that we could have all that action and yet it'd be family oriented. Nobody ever really got hurt. Anytime something happened, they got knocked down, they got right back up, no blood. It was really something, the whole family. And I think one of the reasons Batman was so successful is that here you go back in 1960s, color television had just come out. Very few people had a color television, but there were some, and they were starting to sell them pretty good. And our costumes, oh my gosh, look at the brightness of our costumes. Look at the villains' costumes, amazing colors and stuff like that. But at the time our show came out, people, it's like the typical family in America. Dad was at work, maybe the mom also worked, possibly, but a lot of times just stayed home, took care of the house and stuff. The kids were at school. So by the end of the day, everybody got together, they had their dinner together. And what do as a family? Right after dinner, they go in their living room and they sit down and turn on the television. And guess what? There we were. So that's why we reach so many millions and millions and millions of people, and all ages. There was something for everybody. For kids, it was the hero worship. For the adults, it was the nostalgia of the comic book. But for the college kids and the high school kids, that was a really tough audience to reach, because at that time, nobody that age wanted to be inside watching television. They want to be out cruising around the local outdoor restaurant on a Friday and Saturday night, revving their engines and stuff like that. So how did we get them in? Well, we got them in by the campy style, the suggestive, often double meaning stuff that we said, the extremely overly reverent attitude that, I mean, for example, I can't tell you how many teenagers and college kids, they would think it's the funniest thing in the world when I'd have a line with Batman or Bruce Wayne at the time and say, "Gosh, Bruce, you're right." I mean, nobody at that age ever would tell the parents that they were right. You would rather be torn apart than to say something like, admit to your parents that they were right. Oh no, it's you're that right. The parents are wrong. That was the time. And yet in the dorms, these college kids would get there an hour and a half early to get a seat just to wait on Tuesday and Thursday nights for Batman to come on. And the high schoolers, the same thing. So we had this giant audience, and we were number one and number two in the entire world, Jeff. I mean, pretty amazing, you know, and our opening night ratings were higher than any Super Bowl ratings ever. Our rating, we had a 55 share on the opening night of January 12th, 1966, which meant in North America, because the ratings cover all of North America, you got, besides the United States, Mexico, and Canada, that 55% of every television that were turned on were watching Batman that night. 55%. And all the other local stations, regional stations, the two broadcast networks, you know, plus the ones in the other countries, they were sharing that other 45%. It was gigantic. And you know, it was so crazy because you'd have people, I mean, women had their Batman hairdos, kids had their Batman and Robin underoos. I mean, there was, you know, I mean, I can't tell you how many hundreds of thousands of letters of people sending in a photo of their child dressed up with a bath towel around their neck, held together with a clothespin, jumping off their couch, wanting to be Batman and Robin. It was phenomenal.
Oh yeah, I was right there. So the interesting thing about how huge it was, and it had, like you said, one of the biggest debuts ever, was that they were thoroughly convinced, based on the screening, the tests that they did before, that it was going to be a complete failure because the pilot tested worse than anything's ever tested. Like, it just tanked. Like, I think it got.
Yeah, and you know why? I'll tell you why. I believe, you see, we changed things. You know, I can tell you as a fact, in those days, when people watch television, it's usually you're watching like a police show where there's the good guys and the bad guys. And you as an audience person is really, you're totally away from it. You're just watching something in the distance, you know, and you're not really part of it. You don't feel reacting to it. Well, and so it was either a police show or a medical show where somebody's sick and somebody's trying to save their life. It was not drawing people in. And what Adam and I made a conscious effort to reach through that television set and affect the people in the audience to draw them in. And I think in that screening that people were not prepared for that. You know, sometimes when you give something to somebody that is so new and so different, they don't really know how to react to it. And sometimes they actually think negative only because, well, I've never seen anything like that. That doesn't, you know, you can't do that on television. And yet we did, and became so gigantic, you know, for it. So yeah, it's strange things that you never know, right? I mean, you never know. We were a mid-season replacement, you know, and came in and in fact, you know, I may have told you the last time we talked that it was right during our first hiatus that this young producer came to me at Fox and said, "I want you to be in my movie." And I said, "Yeah." And I asked Fox. They said, "Yeah, you can be in it." And they said, "As long as you don't have it done with another studio," you know, because they don't, you know, they're all protective about that. But then ABC came back in and said, "Nah, we don't want you to do anything else. You and Batman and Bewitched made ABC, which was a syndicated network, the number 3 broadcast network in the United States. This power of our show. They didn't want me to do anything, so I didn't get that movie. It was called The Graduate with Dustin Hoffman. They got him to play the role. They couldn't get me. And of course, it became a monster hit. I would have loved to do that. And it was so funny because the producer, his name is Larry Terman. Every so often in town where you go out, a lot of people go to the same restaurant. So, and I'd run into him. He'd say, "Oh, Burt, I always run at you for that role." I said, "Please, Larry, don't don't rub it in. I would have loved to have done it, But so you win some and you lose some, Jeff, right? And people say, "Oh, does that really bother you? What about typecasting?" And I said, look at it this way. If you have success, think of it like a glass full of water. You can have a glass full of water that represents a whole bunch of smaller successes, or you can have a glass full of water, one giant success and other smaller success. Either way, it's your glass is full. And that's the way I've always looked at it, that I was incredibly fortunate, had a great time doing this. And it is truly a classic. Our show, when they took Batman and put it into reruns, normally a show, when it sells into reruns, these other networks buy it for a year, these cable stations. Do you know that Batman was sold initially because of the success? If you were a station, you wanted to carry Batman, you had to buy it for 25 years. 25 years.
That's amazing.
Not 1 year. And that's how big, and they got it. And our show is, been aired. It's still on, every week here in the US, different cable channels and stuff. But, it was really, truly a classic, and it was so much fun. And the adults today were the kids of the past. And a lot of them bring their kids up. They say, we loved Batman. It was very wholesome, wasn't dark, wasn't, deadly and violent and stuff like that. And, we want our kids to grow up in a very positive, atmosphere.
Yeah, I love your attitude on it, because you'll meet some people that don't embrace what they got, and not everyone has something on their resume. Somebody might have 1,000 things on their resume and don't have Robin. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
And so it's not it's just to be part of something so iconic. And I think why you're just so loved, and Adam was so loved all the way. Was how much you guys embraced it and loved the fans. And
oh, absolutely. And Adam and I got along so well. Let me tell you something. There really is something to having a chemistry when people are working together, as a team. He and I got along so well. When I met him at my screen test. Okay. And I went for the screen test. They said, "Oh, we're going to have you read with another actor." And I said, "Okay." And they said, "Here, Burt, this is Adam." And "Oh, hi, how are you?" And he said, "Yeah, I'm Adam West." "Oh, I'm Burt Ward." And we sat down. In 5 minutes, the two of us were laughing. We got along like you just wouldn't believe. And we never stopped laughing for over 50 years. I mean, we just got along so well. And I must tell you, I really believe the chemistry that we had on screen, which was natural. I mean, directors often tell actors how to say their lines. "Oh, well, can you say this with more emotion? Or can you be more upset about this? Or can you do this? Can you do that?" Do you know, in 120 episodes and 32 different directors, not one director ever told Adam or me how to say a line. Not once in 120 episodes, because I truly played off the way he would say things. Adam was such a funny guy. I mean, such a naturally funny human being. And he loved to think of himself kind of like Winston Churchill, or, I mean, he thought it was such grandness. He once came to me and said, "Burt, that deep voice, I finally realized what it's like to play Batman." I said, "Well, what do you mean, Adam?" "Well, I watched last night a movie. I watched the 10 Commandments. Okay. And I watched Moses come down from the Sermon on the Mount with the word of God. And Adam, oh my God, Adam, please don't go there." You know what I mean? And he was so, oh my gosh. I mean, he saw himself in such a grand way. And it was so funny, because the slower he would talk, the faster I would talk. I counterpointed everything, and people just went crazy over that, because if you look at the great comic duos in history, they've always been a great contrast, like Laurel and Hardy, right? You know, one skinny and one heavy. You take, I mean, even Johnny Carson, Ed McMahon, different way of presenting things. Abbott and Costello. I mean, the great comedy duos in history have always had extreme things between them. So as slow as Adam would talk, I would talk that much faster, you know, and he'd be like, calm down now, Robin, calm, you know, and it's like, and people just ate it up, you know. And it's so funny when people come to our events, they'd stand in line for sometimes 5 hours to get a signature. And when they get up there, they'd start doing our lines in front of us. You know, I mean, what they'd say, oh, I know, you're going to say this, you know, gosh, golly gee, Batman. You know, I mean, and there's, you know, it's hilarious. And Adam and I used to laugh so much, but Adam was quite a character and he would say things to people. Let me tell you something very eye-opening. I remember one time when we had these very attractive young ladies come up on the stage, and he said to one of them, he's in a costume, of course, and it's cowl. He said, "Oh, I've got an itch in my cowl. Would you mind scratching my ear?" You know, and so the young lady just scratch his ear, and he go, "Oh, I feel so much better." He says, "And having met you, I'm beginning to feel strange stirrings in my utility belt." You know, the kinds of things that is so weird. And so and oh my gosh, people would just be embarrassed. He could embarrass people like nothing you've ever seen. And he and I just had the best time. He was like a true funny person, you know. He didn't have to get up on a stage and say a bunch of swear words to get people to laugh. Just the way his mind worked, you know what I'm saying, was like, oh, I don't know about this. He's a pretty kooky guy.
It's so funny. I'd love to hear about some of your other castmates as well, like Alan Napier.
Oh, he was the nicest man. Oh, he, you know, played our butler, Alfred, and he was perfect for the role. Okay. And by the way, he had his pet dog. His pet dog was so small, the entire dog's body fit into the palm of his hand. And he's a very big man. He's 6'9.5", I think. Really, really tall. Adam was 6'4". Julie Newmar was 6'3", and they put 4-inch heels on her and 4-inch heels on Adam, and they cut my heels off so I'd be smaller. And then when I would go out and make appearances, they say, "Gosh, I had no idea you were this big. I thought you're little," you know. Well, in comparison to what they made at, you know, Batman and Catwoman look like, I look tiny in comparison. But yeah, what a wonderful, sweet, kind, everything truly British. He was the perfect. You couldn't have a better butler than him. And now, on the other hand, Julie Newmar, if you want to talk about cast members, she's the only person that Adam was cautious around. Okay, because she also had a very brilliant mind. She does, you know, but she could come out with zingers too. And Adam would never know what she was about to say. You know what I'm saying? I mean, she was as unpredictable, you know, and could say things you just say, nobody could get away with saying that. Oh my gosh, right? And but she was wonderful. In fact, I remember there was a great scene on Batman. This is so Batman style, you know, the campy style, where she's Catwoman, and there's a moment of kind of mental chemistry between her and Batman, and she says, "Oh, Batman, why don't you and I get married? We could do such wonderful things together." And Batman kind of thinks for a minute. He said, "Well, what would we do with Robin?" She said, "Oh, kill him." You know, he's, "No, we're not going to kill Robin." You know, it was just that kind of. I mean, it just was that. Everything was so funny, and there were other scenes where we'd be chasing villains on the street, you know, like we're running down, always chasing the bad guy, right? And so you'd see these villains run across the street, and I'd start to run across the street, and Batman would say, "No, Robin, we have to follow the law. We must use the crosswalk." I said, oh, but Batman, we're gonna get way behind him. So we have to go to the crosswalk, then we can continue running after them. Oh my gosh. And people giggled and giggled. And they just, people just love that. It was that style of Batman, that kind of, we say things and we did it in such he did it. Adam was so amazing. Everything he said was in a suggestive way that you could take any number of ways. And I mean, and of course, he had some wild moments. There was a time in the Batcave where we had Batgirl. This is the third season. And we had shown her the Batcave, and now it was time to take her back out of the Batcave. We couldn't let her know where the Batcave was. So we were going to drive her in the Batmobile. We had to give her a whiff of bat gas, kind of, like to knock her out. So when we got outside, we could return and she wouldn't know where the Batcave is. So we have this scene, and it's supposed to be a really quick scene, and where she's already kind of like, out, and I'm in the passenger side of the Batmobile. Of course, Adam as Batman is in the driver's seat, and I have a line like, gosh, Batman, Batgirl is very pretty. And Batman's supposed to have a line like, well, Robin, I'm glad you noticed. It shows you're growing up, or something trivial. And then we start the car and drive off. Well, Adam messed up 11 takes in a row. Over that one sentence, 11 takes in a row. And now you have to understand, there's so much pressure on a director when you're shooting, series television. You can't fall behind. I mean, you can never work again as a director if you get behind and the studio loses money. So the director was starting to really panic. Adam, what's the matter? He says, well, let's do it again. So we're on the 12th take. And there, you have to understand, you just don't turn it right back on. You got to I'll make sure the lights are right, the film is right, and you haven't run to the end, all of this stuff before you can start. So here we go in the 12th take. And I say, gosh, Batman, Batgirl is very pretty. And Adam, who intentionally had done this all the time, okay, he says, well, I'm glad you noticed, Robin. It shows the oncoming thrust of manhood. And so I had tears coming down my mask on the inside. I was laughing so hard, but trying to keep a straight face. The director, nobody caught it. And that's exactly what Adam wanted. So here now, a few weeks go by, they edit it. There's no other cut. They have to use it. It's on the show. They air it, and boy, the censors came in, and you can't say this. And their producer saying to Adam, why did you listen? It was frustrating. It was the 12th take. I just said whatever came to my mind, kind of thing. But that was the beginning of when the censors started coming in on us for all kinds of suggested things. Well, you can't do that. You can't do this on national television. Now today it's a whole different world, but it wasn't in the 60s.
Well, okay, so Burt, you keeping in that thread. So you fought the Joker, the Riddler, Catwoman, Penguin, but one of your personal other villains, if you will, the Catholic League of Decency.
That's right. You have to understand, everybody wanted to have their say about that. Everybody wanted to have their take. There was this psychiatrist that got into this whole thing about, Batman and Robin is really the wish dream of two homosexuals. And they would ask me about this, for questions about this news article or something like that. And I would say, hey, I don't understand what's so strange about two guys wearing tights and run around fighting crime, and of course they laugh, oh wow, but yes, and in this case it was they didn't like the way I fit in my leotards. I mean, man, I've got to be honest with you, Jeff, man was not built for tights. Okay, let's get that right out in the open here. So, so as a result, and they're very clean, and they thought it was that you shouldn't have a bulge like that. You know what I mean? I mean, just normal is not anything other than normal, but you're wearing a very clinging material. So we had these wardrobe guys, and some of them were like, oh, I want you to try this on and try that on. Oh my God, these exotic things they were trying to give me. And none of it worked. And finally, they found this doctor that gave me these pills that would shrink you up for like 2 or 3 days. And I took him for one or twice, I remember, and then I got worried. Well, what if it ruins my, never able to have a child or something? So I stopped taking him and I started using my cape to cover. But the word got out, and we were I was teased on the set. You have no idea. There was a scene that we had this Londinium Larcenies 3-parter where Lord Fogg and Lady Pea Soup and Glynis Johns, and it was. And they had, instead of having the guys as henchmen, had all these very, attractive English young ladies as their hench women or whatever. And and they all knew about this stuff. So in the course of, and they're supposed to be grabbing, pulling me, and I'm, I can't hit them because they're, we've never hit a lady, it's right. So you couldn't hit them. But in the course of their pulling me and tugging me, they were continuously, purposely running into me, rubbing against me, doing everything they could to aggravate the situation.
They wanted a piece of the boy wonder.
God, they're trying to get a rise out of me, I guess. All I can tell you was that, these are crazy things that went on, and it's like, oh my gosh, in the scheme of things, what's the big deal about this? But everybody had to have their 2 cents in about our show, and it was #1 in the entire world. I mean, it really, and my gosh, the women with the Batman hairdos. Oh, these amazing hairdos. I can't imagine. They must spend hours in a beauty shop to get a Batman style hairdo, and every conceivable toy and metal Batmobile, and there's everything. The studio went nuts, and the company, that Warner Bros. That owned the rights, took out an ad that after the first year of Batman that they sold, this is back in 1966, $1.2 billion of Batman merchandise. 1.2 billion. In those days, that's like $12 billion now. It's just, and it actually turned out in history with all these other shows, wonderful shows, Star Wars movies, Star Wars and Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter and Superman, all of these other merchandise, all the Avengers, all of that stuff. Batman merchandise is still the greatest selling merchandise in history. It still is #1, the Batman merchandise.
Since you were 1 degree away from everything, costume aside, what's one thing that you have or wish you had from the show?
Oh, it's like a memento from the show. I had a Batarang. Okay, I did have a Batarang, and that was really cool. Now, Robin had different Batarangs than Batman. I don't know if you know that. But I had a Batarang that was really cool, and I almost got a Batmobile. But you got a lot of upkeep with the Batmobile. You have to have it, unless you're driving it, you have to have it, on a special trailer and because of the width of the Batmobile so wide, there's only on the trailers that hold the Batmobile, in order to be able to drive on a highway, you only have 4 inches of space on either side of the car. That is way too close to, you could have where you could rub this paint job off or something. Oh my! So no, I guess I had my own costume. So I think the Batman's Batarang that I got was really cool. Was really cool. And I heard later on that Industrial Light and Magic got the mold for and they actually sent me one that they made from that mold, which I thanked them so much. That was a real treasure. So I actually had 2 Batarangs.
That's pretty awesome. You mentioned the Batmobile. So I'm a big fan of George Barris's work, who designed the Batmobile and the Munster coach, and
absolutely,
a lot of famous things. But
the Joker Mobile? Did you see the Joker Mobile?
Of course, Hood. How do you miss so much iconic stuff? But what was interesting that I read was that it almost wasn't a George Barris. It was almost a Dean Jeffries, because he had to pass on it, because originally they were going to make the Batman movie, and then they rushed the TV show into production, right? And so Dean Jeffries couldn't do it. George Barris ended up getting it. And so, and then that's why, you know, in the speed and time to market, George Barris was really good at creating a lot of these iconic things fast. If you read
Oh
about
yeah,
any of those, it was like, he had
right.
2 weeks. But this was like a 1955 Lincoln that actually had already been in another movie. It started with a kiss with Glenn Ford and Debbie Reynolds, painted
Uh,
differently, of course. I just thought that was interesting. And they converted that into the Batmobile, made that the Batmobile.
yeah, oh yeah, that's true. And of course, he very nice man, George Barris, very nice man. He wasn't too happy with me on the first episode, though. In fact, he was really upset with me because I had one of the scenes that I had. You have to understand, I loved doing that so much that when I got into it, I did what the character would do. I didn't really, it's not thinking about like acting. You know, it's like when I grew up, I always wanted to be a superhero. And after school, I would come home and I had this wall and I had a ball and I would kick this ball against the wall and chase it and kick it and keep doing this while I'm daydreaming about being a superhero, right? And so when I got the role and I'm doing this stuff, I just did what I thought the character would do. I just became absorbed in it. So one of the first things that we did with Robert Butler, the director who directed the pilot, which was very special because instead of a 1 week schedule, they gave it a 6 week pilot. I mean, they really made a big deal out of really making a perfect episode, a pilot episode. But anyway, what we did with the Batmobile is we pulled up to a museum and the way Batman parked the Batmobile is the car was actually facing away from the museum, and we were supposed to get out of the car and then run to the back of the car, continue over to the museum wall. That's where we climb up the side of the building. And anyway, this was the Riddler show. So the director thought that I would just open the door and come out. So they set up for that. And you know, there was never any talk about that. Okay, you guys are going to come out and you go to the back, right? And you go over there to where the museum wall and you're going to throw your batarang up and that stuff. So when it came to shooting it, I just thought, hey, I'm got to go in the back. So instead of opening the door, I just stood up on the seat, stood up on top of the door, walked on that very careful, very narrow fin all the way to the back and jumped off the back, right? And the director says, cut, Burt, we didn't set up for that. We thought you coming out the door. You're supposed to come out. That's supposed to climb and go to the back. I said, okay, I'll do it. He said, wait a minute. He says, that was so natural. That was so unexpected and so real looking. All right, we're going to take another half hour, you know, to set up, go get the tracks, get the plywood, put on, you know, they put down this thing so they can dolly, and they made the shot. And I got such a great response from the producer. Oh my gosh, where did you get that idea, Burt? I mean, did Bob Butler tell? No, he didn't tell me to do that. I just did. And it was such a nice thing, but here they weren't expecting. However, here's the part about George Barris. He saw me standing on his 30 coat paint job, right? And walking on that very, almost coming to a point on the fin, which easily could have nicked it or scratched it or dented it. But I had rubber soles on my boots, right? And I understood, I didn't know it, but they had 2 crewmen plus the assistant director holding George Barris and his 2 employees back from rushing to the Batmobile to get me off of it. You know, there's almost a fight on the set because, oh, you can't touch my Batmobile, you can't do that, you know. And I didn't know about it till later. They kept it away, but later on, you know, George and I kind of worked things out together, and it was very nice. You know, he was a really nice man. And thereafter, we always got together. I said, look, I just, you know, I was motivated to do it. You know, this is the real thing. I'm doing what Robin would do. And he said, yeah, I understand that, but my paint job. And I said, well, look, you know, it's look okay. Is there any paint? No, but it could have gone wrong. And, you know, they fret about that because the studio, they had to have 3 Batmobiles at all times. If one thing went wrong, or, you know, that they would have, or maybe it didn't start, or who knows what they have to have a replacement. And they had 2 replacements on set. So he had to make 3 Batmobiles.
That's incredible. I thought you were gonna tell the story how on the first day of shooting they tried to pretty much kill you a million times.
Oh no, they just waited. They just did a little bit each day. You know, every day there was something else I was in the hospital for. And of course, by the end, and then they took out that huge multi-million-dollar life insurance policy. And I swear by the end of the third season, I thought they were trying to collect on that policy. They gave me some really dangerous stuff to do. And I mean, I don't know if I told you the story where I had a scene that they, and here's the thing. I always would say, well, wait a minute, why don't you use my stuntman? Oh, we can't use him. Why can't you use him? He doesn't look like you. Well, why didn't you hire somebody who was a stuntman that looked close enough to me so that I wouldn't have to do all these by myself? Well, we can't find anybody, Burt, so you got to do it. So there was this scene on top of a sound stage, Jeff. You realize how tall those sound stages? I had to go up on top of the sound stage. All right. And the way how you get up there, you have these rickety old wooden steps that have where you can see through the step. Every step you get higher and you kind of crink. You know, it makes a little crackling sound as you step on the wood going up and the next layer, and you go higher and way up. And the thing is like 80 or 90 feet tall. It's huge sound stage. And the scene was that I was going to be hung over upside down off the sound stage. Okay. And I said, I don't want to do that. Oh, that's what's in the show. The writer, we'll get a different writer. No, we can't do that. It's in the show. So here it is, lunchtime, right? But they're doing this right after lunch. And right after lunch, I'm up there and I say, wait a minute. Only way I'm going to do this is if you get me a big rope, you know, like one of those that tie a boat to a mooring, and let me tie it around something that I see is strong and tie it around my leg. And they said, what? We got two of our strongest stunt guys holding you. I said, yeah. And we had fried chicken for lunch. Don't you think their fingers might be a little greasy? They might slip and drop me upside down off the sound stage to my death? No way. I'm doing this with this tied around my leg. And that's the only way I would do that shot. And, you know, and it came out okay, but it was, I can't believe I did that. The only thing that was even more dangerous is I had to go up the same rickety steps. You know, when we slid down the bat pole, well, most of the time we were in Wayne Manor, where they had it was about an 8-foot drop below level. Okay. Where we'd jump onto the bat pole and slide down. But there was a time for the movie that they wanted to go all the way down to simulate how high it was. They built it all the way right up near the top of the soundstage, a pole, okay, for Adam, one for me. And you had to go up the rickety steps and along the highest catwalk. Now they have multiple levels of catwalk. This was the highest catwalk. To get to this, they had no net under me. They had nothing. They said, and I had the stunt guys tell me, okay, well, when you do this, Burt, you have to understand you're going to be sliding down. Even though you got gloves and boots on, the friction's going to be tremendous. So what you have to do is you have to, as you're sliding down, you're like slightly letting go, which will go down a little faster, but then you're clinging with your gloves because it's going to burn a hole right through your gloves. It's on and off, on and off. And same thing with your feet to, you know, the insides of your soles against the thing because it just burn up the sole. I mean, you're going like 80 or 90 feet sliding down with no net. What if I missed? I can't believe I did it. Adam and I did it. We were so stupid. We could have died right then. And I still never know why they didn't have a net. Why didn't they have something? They just figured, okay, you're just going to jump out on the pole. It's right there. Yeah, but what if you didn't get it? Do it right. Oh my gosh. And see, those are the kinds of things that I wake up and have dreams about. Wondering, oh my gosh, thank God I survived that, you know?
Thank God. I mean, it sounds like, yeah, it sounds like it was a very, very dangerous environment. I imagine if you're doing it these days, things would be a lot differently. I imagine the back climbing up the
going up the
wall,
side of the building. Now,
that wasn't as dangerous.
No, but actually it was kind of interesting because it wasn't flat. People always thought, oh, that you just turn the camera on its side. No, actually, it was at a 45-degree angle. So you did have some stress on your muscles. It made it look much more realistic. And then they had clear monofilament fish line attached to our capes so they could pull them taut. because if you were truly going straight up and down, your cape would be hanging. And I mean, these guys at the studio, they are really good at this stuff. They made this absolutely wonderful. Now there was my stuntman did do one thing really in our Batman movie in Century City, one of those like 30-story buildings. He did come down. He used the thing where they come down on the outside of the building with. I mean, he and the other stuntman did that. Thank God I didn't do that. But it was such a wide shot that you couldn't tell. It was my face or anything. But they really did. And then there was the one out over the ocean in the movie where I'm flying the Batcopter and I'm lowering Batman onto this boat, and it turns out that the boat was actually just a projection, a film projection. He actually went into the water from the rope ladder of the helicopter, and he comes out with a big shark on his leg, right? And he's beating the shark with his fist, hitting the shark, right? And I got to get out of the helicopter and go down and hang upside down and have him the anti-shark off bat spray. And now that's another one that my stuntman really, Victor Paul was his name, he really did it. And they're out on a helicopter up over the ocean, and he went down that rope ladder and hung upside down. And then they cut to me on the stage where you're hanging upside down about 10 feet off the ground, but not, whatever, 80 or 100 feet above the ocean. So it was there was a lot of stunts in that show, a lot of stuff that where Adam's stuntman and my stuntman, they did some stuff that was really would have been life-threatening dangerous.
I was going to ask you about that shark, because that's sort of an iconic moment from that movie.
Oh, absolutely.
It's so funny. And then the porpoise out of nowhere saving you guys.
Oh yeah, right. Well, the thing that was so funny about that is in the movie where the Penguin's got a submarine, and he's got a special high-powered magnet on this buoy that attracts our utility belts, and we can't release the utility belt, and he starts shooting torpedoes at us, right? And Batman pulls out he's got a homing device that redirects the signals of the torpedoes so they miss us. And then the third torpedo is coming, and he presses, and he has this line. He says, "Oh my gosh, the batteries are dead." Right? I mean, here for a 25-cent battery, you're going to lose your life because the batteries die. And of course, and then you don't know what happens, and we're flying in the Batcopter, and Batman has this line. That was a noble porpoise that swam in front of that torpedo to save our lives. I
rewatched the movie because I just had you. I hadn't seen it in so long. But it's funny because that the submarine, the Penguin submarine,
right?
The story in the movie is it's a pre-atomic submarine that he just bought from the government.
That's right. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And then they shoot a Polaris missile, and it brings down the Batcopter, and you think we're dead, but we happen to land on an outdoor display of rubber for sale. There's a giant pile of rubber that we supposedly fell in, and when the Batcopter crashed, and so that saved our lives. I mean, there's some very funny,
really funny stuff.
Yeah.
There's a scene where you're figuring out, you remember any of these? What does a turkey do when he flies upside down?
He gobbles up.
That's right. What weighs 6 ounces, sits in a tree, and is very dangerous?
A sparrow with a machine gun.
Yes, of course.
Oh yeah. No, but I also had some tongue twisters. Let me tell you something. I had a tongue twister where I had to say this. And of course, Robin has to say it fast. It's not like being able to say something like even as we're talking, relatively slowly. I had to say things very fast. I had one line that was, "Haven't you some anti-ballistic bat flax in your utility belt, Batman?" You try to say that. That is really, a tongue twister. And everything I did had to be fast. And of course, the faster I was, the slower Adam was, and he was such a character and such a funny guy, unpredictable, fun loving, always a twinkle in his eye. You know what I mean? It's I miss him terribly, but he was a great, and we had a very special friendship. on the Batman. Even afterwards, when we did the 2 movies for Warner Brothers, they had 2 animated features released about, I guess, 5 or 6 years ago. 1 year after another one. I remember I was recording at the recording studio at Warner Brothers, and they had recorded us separately. And he came in to start his recording as I was finishing mine, and it was like my wife Tracy told me. He said, he said when Adam saw you, like, had a tear in his eye, and like we kind of hugged. I mean, you got to understand, we worked together for over 50 years. There was a true friendship there. We had times that on the set where we would laugh, and sometimes even on the weekends, if we had time, we'd go out and play tennis. I mean, there was a true friendship and a mutual respect.
It's heartwarming to hear that. It was a tragic loss. It was so sad when he passed away unexpectedly, right? I mean, it wasn't.
Oh yeah, and the thing is, at the city hall, that they had this amazing thing. The mayor arranged to have the bat signal projected on the LA City Hall, which is like, it's kind of like what you would imagine Gotham City Hall would look like, and they project, and it was fantastic. And what a trip. And with less than, I think, 3 days notice, they had more than 12,000 people that showed. They couldn't get any more people across from where, on the lawn and everything, to watch and to watch the memorial dedication that the mayor did, and police chief of police, and then I spoke, and it was a terrific event. You know what I mean? It was a nice memorial to him.
I'd say anytime, like, I'm kind of stuck on something, I always think back to a line of his from the Batman movie. It just cracks me up. Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb. It's
yeah. He had this where he was going to throw the bomb off the pier, and there was a mother duck with some of her ducklings, and then he was going to throw it in one direction. All of a sudden, here came the Salvation Army marching band, and it was so far ahead of its time. It was so tongue in cheek, really, and I don't recall any feature films or TV shows that were tongue in cheek at that time. We used to say that we put on our tights to put on the world.
Yeah, you did. Oh, I wanted to ask you about Madge Blake and Harriet.
Oh, very sweet lady. Very sweet lady. She actually passed away during the time of the series. I had a funny thing happen on the set. You know what I mean? With her, there was a scene. I didn't know she got very nervous before the shots, and I'm standing next to her, and there's this, and during the scene, Adam as Bruce Wayne says something, and I'm supposed to cross over to join him because we're gonna, we got a message. We got to go to the study because the commissioner's calling. So when Alfred the butler comes in and whispers something to Bruce Wayne, Adam turns to me and says, "Well, Robin, we got to do so and so," and so I'm supposed to go with him, right? Well, I'm standing next to her, but I didn't realize how nervous she gets during the filming. So just before, we started the scene, and she reaches over and she grabs my wrist, and with a grip like of steel. So then, and I was supposed to cross over, and I didn't cross over. They said, "Cut, Burt, why didn't you cross over?" Well, you can't. She's such a sweet little lady. I couldn't say that she grabbed my wrist. I couldn't do. So I just took as though you know what I mean. I just took the punishment, the blame for goofing up when I wouldn't have goofed up, but she hadn't got a hold of me, and in a grip like you just wouldn't believe. It was like a vice. And so what I had to do and I had to stand next to her, so I could see her going to come again. So then I put my hands behind me, so she had nothing to grab onto, so I could do that. But I never forgot that. Because I always took pride in not messing up a shot, and but I couldn't tell on her. She was such a sweet lady. Oh my gosh, and she gets so nervous, and yet she was just great for the part. The casting I thought was amazing. Just absolutely amazing, the casting and the villains, and Cesar Romero as the Joker, all these great actors that were on Batman. Let me tell you something, they loved it. And one of the reasons they loved it, Jeff, was because they could be as big as they wanted. When they were doing other movies and stuff, they had to stay in the character, right? They couldn't make it that big or whatever. But here on Batman, they're a villain. They're bigger than life. They can have the most villainous laugh or whatever they want to do. And they love that. They love the freedom to be as big as they wanted. And, with Frank Gorshin as the Riddler, he had the amazing Riddler laugh. Cesar Romero had the Joker laugh. All of the characters and the villains got to make it as big as they wanted. And everybody loved it.
Talk to me about King Tut, Victor.
Victor Buono, amazing actor. Oh, and he had a voice and a style, and they just let him go. What an amazing actor. Oh my God. I mean, I'm telling you, I was like the kid in the candy store watching these people. I mean, these were people that I had either watched on television, all these stars, or watched in a movie. And he was great as King Tut. He just was great. I mean, it was just so convincing and so evil. And yet then when he would bump his head and he'd go back to being the professor, he was so mild and meek. And, just a great actor. Another great actor, Vincent Price. Now, when I was a kid, I remember seeing a movie he did called The Raven, and I was only like 5 years old. And that really scared me. That movie scared me so bad. So here when they said, Vincent Price is coming on the set, it's like for somebody that as a child, you were so affected by something. I had kind of like a butterfly in my stomach when he first came on the set. And I saw him like, oh my God, that's really him, And yet when I finally had a chance to be introduced to him, just the nicest guy in the world. Such a great actor. Such a great actor.
So, I read your book, by the way. So it's Shelley Winter.
Oh, my Shelley Winters. Oh my gosh. She was very hilarious. I'd been warned about her. They said, she's going to come after you, Burt. I said, what are you talking about? Said, oh no, she likes young guys. Oh, come on. And yet she was very nice and she was very professional. She did hand me the book to read. I have a book for you to read. And I said, oh, okay, well, thank you very much. And she's, I'll bring it tomorrow. And she brought it the next day and handed me the book. And it says, The Delights of Older Women. That's the title.
That's funny. You had quite an amazing life. I love all these stories. There was one other interesting thing I thought was kind of cool. There was another story I thought was pretty cool. You in 1963 were a theater apprentice and worked with Rob Reiner, who later made one of his first TV debuts on Batman.
Became a big director. Yeah, he and I both got an opportunity to apprentice in a playhouse, summer stock playhouse, one of the most famous summer stock off-Broadway playhouses, in New Hope, Pennsylvania. Okay. And it was, what an opportunity when this is where it's called Bucks County Playhouse. And what would happen is big celebrities would come in and they would do plays for like 2 weeks. And every 2 weeks on a Friday night, we would have to tear down the set and nobody would get any sleep until Monday night, putting up this next set because you had to get everything torn down, everything rebuilt, all the sets put up for the next star that was coming in. And he was because he was big. He was like the stage manager. Because he's the only one that could take that huge rope and pull that curtain up and down, so they made Rob stage manager. And it was very nice, and I had a great time there. It's a beautiful place. And I mean, as a young actor, I mean, I didn't get the chance to do any acting, but I built sets. I was in the painting and design. I went with the people making the costumes and learned how to sew in the costumes. And, can I tell you, it's so enriching when you do some of these other things. You don't just do one thing alone, but you do a little of everything. I loved it. Great memories.
That is awesome. And then I know you've been so generous with your time, but I have one final question.
Sure, anything.
Will Teenage Bill of Rights and Autumn Love the songs you do with Frank Zappa ever be released. Whether the public needs to know, or the public.
Oh my gosh. You know something? I wish I could control that. Well, MGM Records, they had come to me and I said, no, you guys, thank you for this amazing offer, but I can't sing. Oh, no, you don't have to worry about that, Bert. We're going to take care of that. I said, well, how can you take care? No. We're going to get you this really talented guy that's going to work with you. And it turns out it's Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention. And let me tell you, his band, I mean, you have to just, you know what they look like? Oh my gosh, the shaggy hair, the long beards, and they would come out in his band and they would just not only play and they were very talented, but then they would tear up their equipment. They destroy everything on the stage. They ruin their instruments. I just couldn't believe it. And Frank Zappa, let me tell you, what a brilliant guy. He was one of the most brilliant. He had gone to Columbia University and was a music major. Brilliant. And yet when you look at him, you think like, oh my goodness, this is straight out of Haight-Ashbury, I mean, this is I don't know about this guy. And he's such a nice guy, so brilliant. So what we did is we did one song, Boy Wonder, Boy Wonder, I Love You, where I took and I wrote I took the text from a whole bunch of fan letters and I put them together, into a funny kind of a fan letter. And then he arranged and I don't know who created the music, but that was Boy Wonder, I Love You. And then there was another one, Orange Colored Sky. There was a couple of things and I said, I can't sing. Oh, don't you worry, you don't have to. And he sort of played upon the fact that I wasn't a singer and just made it that much crazier. So I wish I had control of it, but that was MGM Records. And now MGM, a number of years ago, was sold off to where it's partially owned by Sony, it's partially owned by Amazon. I don't know what's gonna if those will ever come out. I think it would be great to have it come out, but I have no control.
Oh, you know what? When I was talking to Veronica Cartwright, Lost in Space, I was talking to Butch Patrick from the Munsters, and the one thing that they both say is, yeah, Batman came on and then we got canceled.
Oh, I don't know that I don't know that we were even on the same network as them, but I tell you what was because there were so many shows being shot at Fox, we couldn't even shoot at 20th Century Fox. We were shooting at Desi Lou Culver Studios, the old Desi Lucy Studios in Culver City, not in the main West LA, because at that time there was Lost in Space. There was also Peyton Place. I mean, there was a lot of, Ryan O'Neal, and there's a lot of shows they had on there. And I had my picture taken with the Lost in Space, the actors and everything there. Everybody was very nice. I don't really think because I don't think any of our shows really were competitive with others, but there were so many shows on at that time.
I think it was, some of it was the huge colorful nature of your show, because remember, Lost in Space was a black and white drama, and then they literally changed their entire show because and then Munsters was black and white. And
that's true.
Yeah, so
and also Peyton Place, I think, was but that's why Batman was like one of the first to be colorful, and boy, did they go all out, Jeff. That show was so amazingly colorful, and everybody had to have their 2 cents. Even the crew, when they shot the villains' hideouts, they always shot it at an angle. And I finally ran into one of the cinematographers after the series and said, why did you guys do that? What do you mean, Bert? Why did you always shoot? I mean, the villains' hideout at an angle. I mean, you guys are among the best in the world. You can keep the camera straight. Well, we did that on purpose. What do you mean? Why did you turn the camera on an angle? He says, because the villains were crooked. So we made a crooked angle on the camera. I said, oh my gosh. Everybody had to have their 2 cents in. And it was hilarious because you'd always had a sign, villains hideout or something, I mean,
right.
All of these things and it just makes people laugh, and then one of the first lines they put in the Batman opening show to make sure that people understood that this was a put on is when Batman went into this Whiskey A Go-Go, which is or What a Way to Go-Go, which was, there's a famous whiskey a go-go in LA, so they made a joke of it. But where he goes in, and then the maitre d' says, "Oh, can I get you a ringside seat, Batman?" He's, "No, I'll stand at the bar. I shouldn't wish to attract attention." Right? Right. Oh my gosh. And he did it so well. Adam did it so well. It was terrific. And people really got it then. And once they understood that there was multiple levels, everybody came away with something that they were entertained by.
Yeah, it was amazing, and it's still super fun to watch even today. I think anytime I see a clip or I see the meme of you and Adam from the movie, you know, where you're running, you know what I mean?
Oh
Which
yeah,
show,
absolutely. And you know something, I've actually seen episodes that I haven't, I mean, not the whole episode, but I've seen scenes in watching some of the episodes that I had never even seen in all these years. Even though I have the DVD set, I didn't have a chance to watch all of them. And there are scenes in there that I did. I said, "Oh my gosh, did I do that scene?" You know, and it's just great memories. You know, it is such a great memory. And the people that they treasure. Let me tell you, I told you about the appearances. I make these appearances, and people will come up with like things that they have saved for 50 years. Like this one guy came up with this lunchbox. It looked like an elephant had stepped on it. I mean, this Batman lunchbox, it survived 50 years, and he wanted me to sign this lunchbox. You know what I mean? And it's like hardly anything left. It was like a squashed, you know, tin can type of thing. And yet that was his lunchbox when he was watching Batman growing up. And they love those treasured things to be signed.
I love that. I love it. Burt, you're incredible. I appreciate you spending yet another time with me and hanging out and sharing even more stories. I love every second of it. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Citizen. And a special wish to all your listeners and viewers, and you know, best wishes for a successful future in this world that is very increasingly difficult. But, you know, I wish everybody all the very best.
Thank you, Burt. Can I get a holy chutzpah?
Holy chutzpah, Batman!
Thank you very much. All right. That was awesome. Thank you so much.